Hi, and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Profits YouTube page. As always, we're excited to have you guys here today. We're going to be talking about Week 4 start-'em and sit-'em players. These are really important. I think a lot of people underestimate the value of starting and sitting players the right weeks. It makes a huge difference, and somebody who does it well, it can take them from an okay fantasy player to a great fantasy player, help you maybe squeak in the playoffs if you're struggling, or help you get a bye. That bye is always huge in playoffs. So you know what, we're just going to get rolling with it. But as always, I can't cover everybody. I'm only going to cover a few guys, as always. I can't cover every player you should start and you should sit and based on your lineup and all these little things. So if you have questions, leave it in the comments below. We'll be sure to answer it to the best of our ability. And more importantly, we'll tell you the reasoning behind why we would say to sit this guy and start this guy. You know, a lot of times the philosophy is a lot more important than just a straight up answer. Additionally, you know, last week I did it and it was just kind of like, here's just some players, you know, whatever. This week I want to change up a little bit. We're going to do one quarterback, one quarterback to start, one quarterback to sit, and the same for running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, and defense. One to start, one to sit. And as always, leave a comment down below and ask us what you think, what we think about other players. We'd love to interact with you guys. Without any further ado, we'll get started here. First two guys we're talking about is Philip Rivers and Tom Brady. Now, Philip Rivers and Tom Brady are historically good fantasy quarterbacks. They have been for a very long time. Now, we're not talking about their true value as quarterbacks. Some people try to argue that Philip Rivers isn't a great quarterback and he shouldn't be considered up there with Tom Brady and other guys. Whatever, I don't even care. But fantasy value-wise, you cannot argue against the fact that Philip Rivers is a good fantasy quarterback. In the last 4 years, he's averaged over 30 touchdowns a season. Those numbers are phenomenal. Puts him up there amongst elite QBs. So we'll just get that out of the way. So who you should start and who you should sit, here we go, without any further ado. You should start Philip Rivers this week, and you should sit Tom Brady. Now I'm going to get the more controversial one out of the way, sitting Tom Brady. This is probably a hard decision if he's on your team, and I can't blame you. Such a great fantasy player. He's played unbelievable so far this season. He's like a fine wine, man. I swear he gets better with age. He just keeps on getting better, and he keeps on putting up these great numbers. Here's a few reasons why you shouldn't play him. First of all, in the last 2 games, he's thrown 8 touchdowns. Now that's awesome. Like, that's unbelievable. If you have Tom Brady on your team, like the last 2 weeks, he's helped push you to wins. I'm sure you had very good games. You know, he's a great, great player. But he can't keep that up forever. He can't average 4 touchdowns a game. It just cannot be done, even for Tom Brady. Even if you think he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, it doesn't matter. He just can't do that forever. And this is going to be the week he's going to slow down. And I don't necessarily think it's because he is suddenly bad or because his matchup. They're playing Carolina this week, and I don't think Carolina's defense is so good that they're going to stop him for certain. Here's what I do know, though. Carolina's offense isn't very good. And the Patriots are probably going to shut him down pretty handily. And they don't need Tom Brady to be they don't need him to be Superman. I think we're going to see this gunslinger Brady that we've been seeing the last few games calm down a little bit. I think Belichick's going to ring him in, go back to the kind of the normal Patriots that we're used to seeing. They play defense, they do things right on special teams, and they run the ball a lot. Additionally, with Julian Edelman out, Gronk is playing good, and Cooks played great last week, but Carolina is historically good at shutting down number 1 wideout. So I think Cook is going to have a bad week this week, and that kind of takes a weapon away from Brady. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean much. Brady loves to spread the ball around, but I think Carolina isn't much of a match for New England, so they don't need him to throw 3 touchdowns. Maybe he just throws 1. Maybe he doesn't throw any. They don't need him to be too much, especially with how well the whole team is playing. So sit Tom Brady, because they don't need him to do too much, and start Philip Rivers. This week they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who throughout this season have had just a kind of a bad pass defense. Their pass defense has just not been that good. And Phillip Rivers is a lot like Tom Brady. He has tons of weapons. So many wideouts. He's got 2 tight ends. How many teams do you know have 2 good tight ends that can receive the ball? It's crazy that how many weapons he has out there. And that running game can help support him a little bit. But the big thing to note is that he is going to throw the ball more than most quarterbacks. The last 2 games, he's thrown the ball 40 times and 39. So in the last 2 games, he's averaging 39.5 passing attempts per game. Those numbers are insanely high, and he's going to keep it up. No matter how bad he plays, no matter how bad the Chargers play, no matter how good the Chargers play, they're predicated on Phillip Rivers throwing the ball a ton, and he's going to throw the ball a ton, and against a bad defense, he's going to put the ball in the end zone. He's going to get 300 yards this week. It's going to be a great week for Rivers. Moving on to running backs. Devonta Freeman and Will Fournette. Who to start and who to sit. This is very tough. Both guys you could easily justify starting, but this week you should sit Devonta Freeman. Now, I'm not a Devonta Freeman hater, but I tell you what. He's gotten 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Those numbers, he cannot keep those numbers up. No matter how good he is, he cannot keep those numbers up. First of all, because we're playing Buffalo, who has a good run defense. But more importantly, Tevin Coleman's kind of nipping at his heels a little bit. Tevin Coleman is a very talented running back, and it's only a matter of time before Tevin Coleman gets his touches and Tevin Coleman gets in the end zone. Additionally, they have a semi-solid pass game. Austin Hooper's really coming to his own. Taylor Gabriel's not bad. Of course, they have Julio Jones. Coleman and Freeman can catch out of the backfield, although it's mostly a Coleman looking like it. But look for Freeman to cool off. 4 touchdowns in 3 games is just Superman numbers, and sorry to tell you, Devonta, but you're not Superman. Here's why you should start Leonard Fournette. He's going to kill the Jets defense. The Jets defense is bad. First of all, Leonard Fournette is he's a physical monster. He maybe doesn't catch out of the backfield as much as you would like, but physical monster, especially in the red zone. He's going to get his touches at the goal line, going to get a touchdown this week. Now, you might be scared to start him against the Jets. The Jets had a good week last week, and they really stepped up and showed us a different side of the Jets we haven't seen. But I'm here to tell you that that was an anomaly. Don't get too excited by that. Don't think that that's more than it is. It's just something that happens from time to time. Bad teams step up. But you know what? This is Jacksonville's week. They're going to crush the Jets. Let's keep on moving forward to the wide receivers. Willie Snead and Brandon Cooks. Now, you probably already know if you were listening earlier which one to start and which one to sit. It's kind of obvious, I feel like it. You should sit Brandon Cooks and start Willie Snead. Now, you got to start Willie Snead. It's his first week back. He's a very talented receiver. Last year, as the 3rd string wideout, he got almost 1,000 yards and like 8 touchdowns. So you can imagine what he's going to do now that he's the 2nd string wide receiver. That's huge, especially playing against Miami, who has had a very subpar pass defense and has played kind of horrific lately. Additionally, I just like the guy. He's very talented. He's finally getting his opportunity. Now, why to sit Brandon Cooks? Brandon Cooks had a great week last week, but now they're playing Carolina. As I said before, they have this unique ability to shut down number 1 wideouts. They do it very well. And you know what? The Patriots are fine with that. They've got Gronkowski. They've got all their weapons. They've got like 5 different running backs. 3 of them can catch out of the backfield. I mean, they've got their defense. It's going to shut down Carolina. There's just no need for Cooks to be big this week. He's not going to get an insane amount of targets. He's not a huge playmaker necessarily. He might be a huge playmaker talent-wise. He's very talented, but Patriots don't want him to do that. That's not how the Patriots work. So, this is going to be an off week for Brandon Cooks. Stay away from him. I'm going to keep him on my bench, and I suggest that you do it also. But let's keep moving forward so this video doesn't get too long here. Jimmy Graham and Travis Kelce. Now, this one was tough for me because I like both of them. I like both of them a lot, but here's who you should start, and here's who you should You should sit Jimmy Graham and start Travis Kelce. Now, you got to start Travis Kelce because he has a great match against Washington. Washington cannot seem to cover tight ends. And here's why. They've got thick physical linebackers. They can punish quarterbacks, they can punish running backs, and that's great, but they can't match up against tight ends or wideouts. And the corners aren't great. Corners have a hard time matching up against Kelce anyways. He's a big man, especially in the red zone. He's just going to box you out like a basketball player. He's going to get his touches. Here's the most important thing to remember. Alex Smith is a good quarterback, and he loves Kelce. Kelce is the #1 receiver in that offense. He is the #1 target. They love him. They rely on him. This is going to be a great week for him. Here's why you should sit Jimmy Graham. That offense has been stagnant in Seattle. It hasn't looked good. It's played pretty darn ugly. It doesn't seem to be doing too much, and neither does Jimmy Graham. He's not getting quite the same amount of targets as we'd like to see. Excuse me. He's not getting as many targets as we'd like to see, or as many yards, or especially as many targets in the red zone, and that offense has played pretty bad, but they're also playing Indianapolis. That offense is atrocious. It's truly ugly, led by Jacoby Brissett. The run game is bad. They got one good wideout. Don't even trust that offensive line, and that great Seattle defense is going to shut them down. It's going to be a low-scoring affair. And again, they're just not going to need Jimmy Graham to be Superman. You know, I've been saying this a lot this week, but a lot of times that's the case. Just look at the matchup. What does so-and-so's team need out of him? Because if they don't need a lot, he's not going to do a lot. That's kind of simply how it works, especially at the tight end position. Remember, they're not wide receivers. It's not like Antonio Brown. Maybe the Steelers don't need Antonio Brown, but he's so talented, they're going to use him anyways. That's not the case with Jimmy Graham here. It's not the case with a lot of guys we've been talking about this week. So that's it. Start Kelce, sit Graham. Moving on. Now on the right, we have Greg Zuerlein, and on the left, we have Harrison Butker. Harrison Butker is a picture of him just a couple of weeks ago kicking for Carolina, but now he's actually kicking for Kansas City against Washington. I love that matchup. I think Harrison is a good kicker. We haven't really seen him come out, but if you have a bye week kicker this week, he's just not out there, this would be the time to test this guy out and see. I think he's going to have a great week. He's on a good team. A lot of times for kickers, opportunity is the biggest thing because they can all kick the ball, you know? And so opportunity matters, and Kansas City is huge opportunity. Suckup is out, so he'll be starting this week, and you know what? They like to kick, they like to play defense, they're perfectly fine with it, and that offense is looking good. So he'll get some extra points, I think, too. I wouldn't be surprised if he attempted 3 or 4, maybe even 5 field goals. And here's why you should sit Greg Zuerlein. They're playing Dallas's defense, and I have a feeling Dallas is going to shut down St. Louis. The LA Rams. Wow, it's hard to get used to, all the changes in the NFL of recent. But the Rams, I think they're going to get shut down this week. Dallas's defense is looking good, and I think it was quite a mirage last week how good their offense looked. San Francisco's defense is just bad. I mean, that's just the team as a whole is pretty bad. And so, you know, I don't think that we're going to see what we saw last week. I think it's going to be a fairly low-scoring affair on the Rams side, and I just don't think he's going to get the opportunity to put the ball between the uprights. Moving on, finally, to the defense. Jacksonville and Detroit. Now, I'm just going to be upfront about this. You should start Jacksonville and sit Detroit. Now, Jacksonville's playing the Jets this week, and last week the Jets played okay, but like I said, that's a mirage. Even the worst teams win a game every once in a while. Even brutal teams who are playing third-string quarterbacks occasionally win. And that's what happened last week with the Jets. They're going to bounce back to their brutal form, and Jacksonville's improved defense is going to shut them down. Look for a lot of sacks and a couple of turnovers. Sit Detroit. They've played good fantasy-wise so far this year. They've played very good, but they've had some unbelievable numbers. First of all, they've gotten 2 touchdowns in 3 weeks. Not to mention they've gotten 6 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery. But they haven't been good on the sack side, and they haven't been truly good. They're allowing a lot of points. That's not going to happen against the Vikings. The Vikings aren't going to turn over the ball that much. First of all, just because Detroit can't keep those numbers up. but also because the Vikings play good defense, they play it close to the vest, and they're fine winning 3-0 if they need to. Like, seriously, that's just their identity. Now, their offense is looking better this year, but the point is they're not going to push it. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're not going to risk anything. So don't expect Detroit to come out too big this week. They don't pressure the quarterback very well, and that's something you have to do against the Vikings. So I don't think they're going to do that. And if they can, their defense doesn't stand much of a chance to be a big fantasy player this week. Well, guys, that's all I have for you. Once again, leave something in the comments below. Ask some questions, kind of trying to build a community here. We love your guys' input. Love your guys' suggestions, too. Leave some suggestions down below. Like the video, share it. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We thank you so much for your support. You have a great day.